Hey, good afternoon. Welcome once again to PCA Live 3 at 3. Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm Scott Pierce here, the Executive Director of the Premium Cigar Association. We're very excited for today's program. We're going to cover a lot of ground today. Not only are we going to talk about some cigars, but we're also going to talk about, again, last episode that we talked with Cigars for Warriors, I started that broadcast off by saying one of the things I really love talking about and diving into is the entire community that surrounds the premium cigar world is so much about giving back and how we help others, how we help the communities that support the industry. And today is no exception to that. We're going to dive into a very important foundation that exists to help out in Nicaragua. And so we're going to talk to the founders of that and the work that they're doing down in Nicaragua with Antigua Esteli Cigar Company, and various ways in which they're helping the communities out down there, and then also how you can all get involved. And so for today's show, we've got Art Garcia from Antigua Esteli Cigars, who's going to join us, talk about his company, talk about his cigars. But he's also invited a couple of very special guests to join us to talk about this charity work. And it's Chris and Terry Marlette who have started this. So I'm going to bring all of them up. We're going to start the show talking first about the charity work and the foundation, the work they're doing in Nicaragua. And then we'll transition into talking a little bit more about cigars with Art after that. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Art, Chris, and Terry to the broadcast. How is everybody doing this afternoon?
We're doing great. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
You know, Scott, I just want to take a quick time just to appreciate and thank Chris and Terry Marlette for joining us in this call. To me, it's very important for us to help Nicaragua and help all the kids, all the people who needs our help, especially right now with COVID-19. I feel that it's a very important necessity that we all reached out our hearts and bless these people because they need us right now. And so us in the cigar industry and me being strong in Nicaragua as well as Chris and Terry, I'm telling you, we need to make something happen.
Yeah, 100%.
So thank you guys.
No, thank you, Art, for being able to put this together. Terry, Chris, where first of all, where are you guys joining us from?
We're here in Dallas right now. We're not able to be in Nicaragua because of the COVID situation. So we're here in our headquarters in Dallas.
Oh, okay, good. And so if you could just kind of introduce yourselves a little bit and then talk about your charity, the NicaFund, and what that's all about, please.
You want to take it, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can't hear either one of them. I'm not able to.
Oh, you can't hear Chris. You can't hear Chris or Art. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's making for a little bit of an awkward experience on when to talk.
Let's see if we can fix that real quick. Can you hear me, Terry?
Well, Art, you're coming through loud and clear on my end,
Okay.
And I can hear Chris. Chris, are you having trouble hearing anybody?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I'm wondering.
Terry, if
Okay,
I
well,
ask you about allowing you to use a microphone or something like that, that you allow it, maybe that's what the problem is.
No, it's all open. So I'm not.
Is it?
Yeah, it's all kind of open. So I can act as an interpreter if you want. if either one has to. Yeah, go for it, please. Yeah.
I'll just talk then. So I'm Terry Marlette, and my husband and I started NicaFund about 16 years ago in Nicaragua when we first moved there. My husband's Nicaraguan, and we built a house there near a rural community on the Pacific coast. And we started doing like education programs and ecological programs for them to clean up their city. And that sort of has evolved over the last 16 years into two major programs that we have. One is work fair, and one is educational programs. And so typically how we run our foundation is we give people opportunities and they change their lives. We don't give handouts or anything like that. So typically speaking, we give food in exchange for community service hours. But in response to the COVID situation, people are not able to get to Managua to work or to Leon, and they're not able to isolate like we are in the United States. So we are going against our philosophy and principles and giving people basic needs in response to COVID. And so we're raising money for food, disinfectants, and masks right now. And we are serving the municipality of Nagarote and the city of Esteli with Art.
So Art, we were talking a little bit about this, and explain the significance of Nagarote and Esteli for you personally, and kind of how you got involved in this, and why that specifically sort of these areas that you're still focused on, and your connection.
Yes, well, I know Chris and his wife since 2016 now, and I've been watching them grow their foundation and all the beautiful things they're doing in Nicaragua, and so, I said to myself, you know what, I should reach out to them and see if we could do something to help the people where we work at, which is Esteli, and then also with my wife, which comes from Nagarote. And so when I reached out to them, they said yes, they were excited to help us. And I think there was a need for us to help. And so from being a lot of cigar factories in Nicaragua, and Esteli, I don't think they were being helped the right way, in the correct way. And a lot of those people, they're poor people. And can you imagine if they close their factories, nobody's working, how are they going to feed their family? And so I think that we had a need to help. And so that's how we approached Esteli. I said, look, there's a lot of poor families in Esteli who need help, and we should be able to help them. And also my wife's town, Nagarote, which is about 30 minutes away from the ocean of Leon. It's in the Leon town. Leon is Nagarote is a very poor, Esteli is richer than Nagarote, but Nagarote, there's I think there's 15,000 or do you know, Terry, how many people live in that town? Chris?
Terry, do you know how many people live in Nagarote?
I think the entire
I think 25,000 live in the city of Nagarote.
25,000, okay. A lot of people started dying in that town, and they were being buried at nighttime, and all that stuff has been happening. So it's sad. It's sad, and I just say, you know what, I got to do something to help out. And I know our cigar community is very close, very united. And I said, what if, let's put something together so we can help these people. So that's how we approach NicaFund, and which I already had the trust with them as well, because I seen them grow. I seen all the beautiful things they're doing. And so I said, you know what, we got to work together and make this happen. That's how I got started.
Awesome. Chris, as you're looking at this, I believe it's your mother's side, right? Is from Nicaragua. Terry kind of explained that you were living down there, but what was it that kind of spurred this on for you in order to say, hey, let's look at the way that we can kind of give back? And for me, what I really love about this, right, it's that old Chinese proverb, right? Teach a man to fish, essentially. And that's kind of what this is about. It's more about community building than it is just simple donations.
Absolutely.
So kind of talk about that approach and what you kind of why you approach it that way, and kind of what you're seeing as the results are coming out of that now.
Well, we even though my mother's from Nicaragua, and I grew up my whole life in the United States, so I really didn't have the sensibilities of a person that's on the ground in Nicaragua. And so we came to Nicaragua much like any other non-Nicaraguan or gringo or whatever you want to call us, and really didn't know how to help. And I think Terry put it best when we started this was, I was just, felt, if we want to now call this new term white privilege, I felt privileged, and so I just felt guilty and wanted to give things to people. I didn't realize how destructive that was, and I think that so many people are trying to do the right thing, but they just don't really understand what's going on the ground. So Terry had a really, I think, really insightful comment. She said to me, Chris, the more you give stuff away, the longer the line can get. And I think that's when she came up with the program, which was, hey, maybe we can have them clean up the town and work for their basic needs. And she constructed this program, the first program, which is now called Somos El Cambio. And as she's deployed it, I kind of look at it, it's kind of sort of has a quadruple bottom line effect, because we're getting a clean town, which gives everybody sort of community pride, but it also has really been a huge, it's really spurred tourism, because now people can come in and be on a clean beach. You're not going to come to a beach that's dirty.
Right.
But something that probably was not obvious, a lot of other unobvious things came out of the program, which was we really gave these people their dignity because they would use the building materials they would earn from cleaning the town to build their own houses. And a lot of these are women that were single mothers. And so what it did is it created a lot of dignity. One, the town was cleaner. Two, they had a house. But you didn't tell them that they were worthless by giving them something. And I think it's a big problem we've created in the United States, which is we pay people not to produce. And when you do that, you rob them of their dignity. And I think that, so as a result of this program, if you go to El Tránsito today versus when Terry really started implementing these programs, you really sense a huge difference now. And even though the town is still economically not poor, they're proud. And we're seeing it becoming more economically prosperous as other people come to the town and notice that. So I think it's really all of her work that's made that happen. And then as you start to advance the community, the next thing is, well, how do you bring these people to a global economy because they're disconnected? And really, the only way you can do that is through education. And so she's employed the educational programs for you that are critical to get these people part of the global economy, which is reading, basic math, and now English. And now English is what's going to be the ticket to get these people out of poverty. And so I recognize that, and I built the largest call center in Nicaragua, in Managua. So now that these kids that speak English can go work in a call center, pay for their college by working in the call center, and now become really part of the global economy. And that's how Costa Rica.
Amen, brother. That's
how Costa Rica developed, and that's how Costa Rica became so prosperous. So I kind of look at it as Terry and I work as a team. She brings up the farm team to get these people to have basic needs that they have, and then I sort of take them once we get them to the point to where they can be part of the global economy and find them jobs, because my business is really employing educated people in Managua, and that's where I've been able to do that in Managua, not from a philanthropic perspective, from a pure capitalistic perspective. And so it's sort of the hand in hand of the philanthropy really coming up with a sustainable way to get people into the global economy.
That hits on a lot. I don't know, Terry, if you heard all of that, but a lot of good praise for the work that you've done there in your vision and being able to enact a lot of this. But a couple of comments there. But your last point is actually really interesting, because if you look at particularly what the management sciences have studied over the past at least decade now about reinvesting back into the workforce, and a lot of it has to do a lot with American workforces and other things too. But even globally, as you reinvest back in, companies and organizations will end up reaping way more benefits financially, more than anything else, on reinvesting training back into their employees and in training the workforces, rather than losing and trying to bring in other people in that. So to your point about reinvesting into the workforce, being able to look at it that way, I think is quite innovative, to be honest with you. But there's a part here that actually strikes really personal to me, and forgive me for sharing a little bit of a personal anecdote here. But when I was really little, I'm the youngest in my family, but when I was little, my parents ended up getting divorced, and not to get too far into it or anything like that, we ended up getting kicked out of our house when we were homeless. And if it weren't for a community around us that said, look, we're going to help you get into a house or whatever else, my mom did not have a college education. So my mom had to dive back in head first into the workforce to try to figure out how she was going to support. At that point, then was 6 kids, because my oldest sister just got married. And so to your point here, community being able to step in and not just simply say, well, here's enough to give you some food for the next 6 weeks. We wouldn't know where I'm going to get food, right? I really wasn't able to get clothes or do a lot of other things, then kind of going into kindergarten and some of these other things, right? But ultimately, it was the community being able to step in and do very similar to what you guys are doing right here, getting us back on our feet and helping us get to a point to where we were able to, my mom more than anything else, chip in, and some of my older siblings, take care of ourselves. And to your point, having that sense of purpose and that sense of pride, being able to do that in the long run, I think helps so much. And that's what I really like about this approach, because having lived through it personally, even as a child, and it took many, many years to get through. And quite frankly, we really didn't have a whole lot all the way through. I had to pay my own way through college and everything else. Right. And so, but even still, it tends to have an effect, particularly me growing up, seeing how hard my mother worked, how hard my older siblings worked to all kind of put back into the family. It all has a dramatic effect, I think, in terms of how that changes the psychology, as opposed to saying, you know what, I can take control of this and I have an opportunity to make my lot and my station better and for my family, rather than saying, I've got to always rely on somebody else to give me something because I can't do it.
Right.
And I'm wondering, I mean, that sounds like that's the total approach, Terry, that you were like, hey, this is the way it has to be in order for the communities to continue to build and build up themselves.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And we've developed amazing relationships with the local government. The mayor of Nagarote gave us a key to the city that he loved
That's amazing.
Our program so much.
Nice.
That he gave us this very, Nicaragua style key a few years ago for all of the work that we've done and how we've really turned around that segment of the municipality that he serves. And he has been a great supporter of our work. And it's because it really gives the people dignity and helps them believe and learn leadership skills that they can do it. They don't need handouts to do it.
Exactly.
It's really made a big difference in a lot of people's lives.
Oh, I can imagine. So I'm really curious. I think people that are watching too, what are the types of programs that you offer, and how is it that people that are listening? Again, we've got a very large cigar community of manufacturers, retailers, as well as consumers that absolutely love Nicaragua. They know how important Nicaragua is to the cigar industry. The people of Nicaragua. I mean, look. If you're even a fan of cigars, even for 10 minutes, you realize how important this communities in Nicaragua are. You're smoking products all the time that come from that wonderful country. So how is it that they can get involved, and what are the types of programs that they can get involved in, either helping, whether it's donations or other things that you're looking for, and what kind of the purposes of those programs are?
Well, we have donations set up for the COVID response for Nagarote. The community that we serve specifically is called El Tránsito, and for Esteli. So listeners can get involved and donate directly. $35 gives a family of 4 all of the disinfectant that they need, masks, and food for 2 weeks. Beyond that, we have the basic needs program that we run in El Tránsito. And that's called Somos del Cambio, We Are the Change. And that's where people exchange community service for basic needs like construction materials and stuff like that. There's also a segment for donating on our donate page for that program. And then we have education programs. So once families really have their basic needs under control, they start to look outward and upward and say, what kind of educational opportunities can I get for my children? And we do the same exact program where we exchange community service hours for educational opportunities for their kids. And all of that's on our donate page for NicaFund.org.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can do this. I love that. I love that brilliant little connection there, is that community service turns into a tangible benefit for them. And so right there, that's automatically instilling. It's one of the lessons, actually, when my son was going through, and he was a junior in high school, and he was like, when am I ever going to use this math ever again? And I said, you know what? You may not ever use this math ever again. I said, but what it's trying to teach you is it's trying to teach you how you approach problem solving and how you approach working through things that aren't easy. So that's what I love about this, is that connection to that approach of, I'm putting in something and I'm going to get these rewards out of what I'm putting into it. But I'm going to go see if I can go ahead and just share this page real quick. Let me see if I can share my screen, so that way people can see the Chrome tab. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and share. So this is the website right here, the NicaFund.org/donate. So right here, you can see I got the COVID-19 relief right here that you can donate to.
Hey, there am I right there.
There's Art right there. I love it. And there you go. There's the Antigua Esteli right there for the cigar community, right? And other partnerships here. So anybody listening, watching this, go to NicaFund. You can see the website address right here, NicaFund.org/donate. But you can learn about everything here on the website, all the amazing programs that they have here and ways for you to get involved. That looks great. So Before we kind of transition over to Art and to the cigar aspect of it, for kind of what you're looking at, obviously the COVID-19 is going to be something that's going to be incredibly important. More short-termish. When I say short-term, probably 6 months to the next, 12, 18 months. But again, you guys are looking at impacting lives and generations. So as you're looking over kind of the next year, what are some of the big things that, you're going to continue to do these programs? Are there other things, other, scholarship programs or things like that, to where others might be able to be involved with you all? Just kind of want to get a little bit of an idea about what maybe the NicaFund future is looking like. And if people want to get involved volunteering and things like that, how would they go about doing that?
In El Tronsto, we built a community center, and it has 2 apartments in there. And so volunteers come all the time and stay in those apartments that we built and do all of the volunteer opportunities in the town, like helping the people clean out the estuaries and pick up trash, or participate in helping the English teacher with our English program. And serve meals at the school. We have a food program at the school. We're teaching 30 kids right now English to start our pilot program to open a satellite location for Sitel, which is a call center in Managua. So we're looking to open that up next year. I think once this COVID thing passes, there'll be lots of opportunities for people to come to Nicaragua, visit Esteli, visit the factory, and then come to the beach, when they're ready for some sun and surfing, and volunteer in El Tránsito for, make a difference. It's a really cool thing. Once you get the bug, you just never leave that country. It's an amazing place.
Yeah, I was before COVID. I was kind of in planning stages to visit, but then I had to get put on the back burner. Now, so what's interesting is I've tried to seek out volunteer opportunities for like soup kitchens and stuff to do with the family. If we wanted to bring kids, for example, ages right around 8, 10 years old to participate in this, are there opportunities to do that with families and things like that too?
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of time families will contact me, and at the end of the school year, they collect all of the used school supplies from their schools, all of the blue and white uniforms. They come down on a family trip. We distribute all the used school supplies to schools in Nicaragua, because our used school supplies are treasures for them. They really need those supplies. And then the kids help serve meals in the kitchen, and we serve 350 meals every day. We feed every kid in that town every day so they can go to school. So there's tons of opportunities for trash pickup, but also serving of food, and also teaching the kids to, take our trash, take it down there, and it becomes useful supplies that prolong learning for those kids down there.
That's great. So if we wanted to do like a local school drive to gather up school supplies to do that, we can work through you and do that. Okay, perfect. I want to get that set up then.
Yeah, and Terry,
that'd be great.
Terry's done a great job too. Just people that have any kind of special.
Congratulations, Terry.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, Terry's done a great job of just almost anybody that's got any kind of special talent. Almost anything, that knowledge is what's power for people, and so she's done a good job of figuring out how to utilize that in the community. So we're always welcoming new people down in the community, and there's always something that somebody can bring to the community.
Yeah, he was just Chris was just giving you props for you have an amazing ability, he said, to find people and find what talents that they can bring to the table and put those to use for helping out. So.
Now, Scott, I also want to bring up.
It's been a huge learning experience. It wasn't that I walked in knowing everything. The people of Nicaragua have taught me a lot about what they need and how to approach community development work. It's been a true partnership.
Now, I also want to bring up that if there's anybody out there who want to donate large amount of money, more than $35, let's say 100, 500, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, they could also go direct to Terry or Chris Marlette. And they will get a tax write-off. Am I right, Terry? Or Chris? They'll get a tax write-off for a large amount.
We're a registered 501c3, so yeah, it's yes, you do get a tax write-off.
That'll be great. You guys will get a tax write-off, and let's do it right now. The people need help. For this COVID, because Terry, can you talk a little bit about how bad it is in Nicaragua right now? Because I don't think people know how bad it is right now. Did you hear me?
Oh, Terry, he was just saying, could you talk a little bit about the impact that COVID has had and the struggles and kind of how bad it is? He said people may not realize
how bad is it?
How bad is it right now? How hard is it hitting the communities there?
Yeah, I mean, most families live already in poverty and most in extreme poverty, and their economies are day to day. You know, what they earn that day, they go and buy food that day. So the fact that, you know, the fishing industry is not working, in the town that we work in is a fishing town, but even other places like the cigar industry in Esteli or in Nagarote, lots of people depend on daily wages or weekly wages to be able to feed their families, and jobs, you know, everything's slowed down, and so there's just not employment right now. So this is not a situation of, let me give you a lesson so you can, you know, keep your dignity and solve your own problems. This is really like a disaster response that we're looking at here.
Right.
So you know, people really need that extra support to be able to get basic food needs like rice and beans and oil, and they can supplement with they can get the other things, but like the hardcore basics, just being able to move inside the country and get there out of fear of being exposed to COVID or just not having the money to be able to move. Everything is public transportation. You know, most people are in dire situations right now around this COVID situation, and they need NGOs who have the dedication and the response that we've had, being there for over a decade, going on our second decade now. They're really looking to us to respond. They're really saying, like, we don't have another choice. We really need you guys to help us.
Right.
Yeah. So please, anybody listening, go to the NicaFund.org /donate. I mean, listen, if you know 500,000 people that are listening to this thing all go and give $35, that would make a world of difference.
That would make a big difference.
Yeah. So please, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I'm absolutely going to do that.
The way we're going to help, Scott.
Thank you.
Well, I was supposed to fly there next month, but because this situation is very bad and I'm not in the conditions of getting sick, because if I get sick, I might not be with you guys in this world. I have to lay back a little bit. Yeah. But I do have people out there who work for us for Antigua Esteli. My wife, she also wants to get involved and help us distribute food, you know, serve for NicaFund, and she wants to do all that good stuff because, you know, she wants to be nice and it's just from her heart. Actually, I didn't even ask my wife to do it. She said, honey, I want to do it. I want to help. So we're going to go out there and distribute the food for Esteli, help out with Chris and Terry. Also, we're going to do the same thing for Nagarote. And further, we also going to, I personally want to go to El Tránsito and go to pick up trash on the beach and plastic cans, because that's what I want to do, you know, but that's what we're going to do. That's what Antigua Esteli wants to do, is we want to help out from the heart, and we're reaching out to our cigar smokers. Give us a hand. Nicaragua needs us right now. Yeah,
fantastic. All right, so last day, guys, go to NicaFund.org to get all this information and to find ways in which you can help participate to help Nicaragua. And really, honestly, I mean, helping Nicaragua helps the cigar industry, right? I mean, ultimately, well, you know, so many of us have such great cigars and products in our humidors because of that country, because of these communities, because of these workers, and right now they need our help. So the way I'll just pitch in, it can make a world of difference. So any last sentiments, Terry or Chris, before we let you guys go? Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys coming on to talk through this. But any last comments for you all before we let you guys get on with your the rest of your afternoon?
I just want to give a little pitch for Art. You know, Art came in when he was first starting, had his dream for starting Antigua Esteli, and I've watched him build this company sort of brick by brick, and he's done a great job. Makes a wonderful cigar. And I'm so happy for you, Art, because I know you're going to really turn this into a great company and turn this into you know, a wonderful thing for Nicaragua. So
thank you, brother.
Thanks again to Art. Scott, thank you for having us on today.
These are coming your way, Chris. These are coming your way. I'm going to mail them to you.
Perfect.
I mean, he's a man of his word. We were talking last night, and he asked if I had any, and he got some at the trade show. And I said, yeah. I said, I looked at some of the local retailers and haven't been able to find them. So Art legitimately yesterday overnighted them, and I got them this morning. So
yeah.
He definitely got them.
You can't interview me without smoking my cigar.
You know, I was going to go buy them, but I couldn't find them.
But I apologize, because I should have sent you some too. I totally forgot you were going to. I was just going through some crazy stuff, you know, but I'll send you some. Don't worry about it, Chris. Okay. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Terry and Chris, both for joining us, and more importantly, thank you so much for the great work that you're doing.
Nicaragua.
let's stay in contact. And if there's anything else that we can kind of do to help promote this or do whatever we can, we're absolutely on board to help to make sure that all of our cigar community and the rest of the Nicaraguan communities that are down there can kind of continue and A, survive this, but then B, thrive as well.
Amen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Terry. Take care. And Chris,
Bye.
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 All right. So Jorge's in the waiting room. Should we bring him up to talk about the cigars?
Yeah, it's up to you, brother.
We can.
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yeah, there you are. You're live with us now.
Hey, that's my father.
No, I don't smoke.
You don't smoke?
My father right now
No.
is not smoking little
But
cigars.
I wanted to see my son interview in there.
Oh, okay. Well, we wanted to bring you on and say hi. That way you can kind of see it. So
Love
yeah,
you, Pops.
I want to say hi to both of you guys.
it's good to see you.
Hi to both of you.
It's good to see you, Papa Garcia. Yeah.
Yes, the big
Yes.
Pops right
It's good to see you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Scott.
there. Bye, Pops.
Yeah, he's in the quote unquote green room as he's watching this. All right, so fantastic initiative there with the NicaFund. Thank you so much for bringing that up and bringing it to our attention and bringing on Chris and Terry so people can find ways of giving back right now to a community that's so important and critical to the cigar industry.
Chris and Terry, they're just amazing people, bro. The people love them so much. They're respected by the people. They're respected by the communities over there in Nicaragua, and I couldn't say no more than that. I mean, these guys are just amazing, and they're doing great things for the people in Nicaragua. And you know what? We got to join them and help them build a better Nicaragua. And so those are the right people to work with.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk about your cigars. So thank you again for setting up some. I got down too low, so I had to take this part of the band off. But just go ahead and show everybody here. We are go ahead and enjoying this. This is the one I'm going to show the band real quick here so that you can see it. I got the Habano Oscuro right here.
The Habano Oscuro, and then in Europe it's called Segovias Oscuro.
Segovias, that's what Segovias.
Yeah, we took the Habano out. We can't do that over there.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. Yes, absolutely. Really good. This is hitting my palate. This really matches my palate really good. So
this is your first cigar of the day?
This is my first cigar of the day. Yes.
There you go.
Yes, it is. I like how that's the question, right? Because when we get into this, it's so funny. You can tell you're talking to a fellow, cigar guy when they're like, "Is this your first one of the day?" Because they know, right? They know kind of where it's at. I did not have my breakfast cigar this morning. I was other things going on, so I did not have a chance to get my breakfast cigar in. So why did you decide to jump into this? Now, your background, as you were telling me, you're a singer, you're an entertainer, right? You're a performer. So what was the idea for you getting involved with cigars and wanting to kind of bring your own sort of flair, palette, and everything else to your own brand of cigars?
Well, I've been smoking for a very long time. And my first cigar was when I was 15.
18, you said? That's what I heard. 15, I heard 18. 15. No, I heard 18. I heard 18.
No. 1-5.
Read the room, Art. You're 18.
Okay, 18. Yeah, that's right.
There
18.
you go.
But you know what? But when I smoked my first cigar, I smoked it in Mexico, so it doesn't really matter here.
Well, yeah. Mexico 15 is a U.S. 18. That's perfectly
okay,
there you go.
So, as I was growing and as I was getting older, I never stopped smoking. So at 18, when I was legal, I started buying my own cigars. I had my little humidor, and I just started growing and developing. But inside of me, I had a sensation about tobacco. I had a sensation about why am I in love with cigars, and so it started just to grow. And then one time I sit down with family members and my father, and we started going about our family history. And it turned out that, I already knew this through my grandfather, but my great-grandfather grew tobacco and so on. And so I think that's where the passion came from. Even though my grandfather's kids, which is my father, they didn't grow up with the tobacco side of it. I think that it got passed on to me. And it became a passion. So it was cool because
skip a generation.
Yes, it skipped a generation pretty much. Yeah. And so everywhere I go, I always have cigars. And so when I was performing and I was an artist, every time I used to do a show on stage, I used to get my cigar and spark it up. And then every time I was in the label, or every time I was with big music people in the industry, I was known as the cigar guy rather than the artist, because I always had a lot of cigars, and I give away to the executive, the president of Universal Latin. As a matter of fact, we sponsor a few times the Latin Grammys with Universal Music.
Oh,
I
very
sponsor
cool.
the Latin Billboards in Miami with Universal Music. I also sponsor several music events where we created a cigar lounge here, and this big festivals where we had maybe about 20 known celebrities performing, and then right in front of the stage, we built a cigar stage.
That's unbelievable. I love it.
And it was this happened 3 years in a row. 2015, 2016, and 2017, I believe, was the last event. It was called the El Festival, and it was amazing. And so I was just known as a cigar guy, and that's how my passion grew. But I knew when I sold my record label, I knew that this is what I wanted to get into. I just wanted to work in my passion. I just wanted to build what I love, and what I love is tobacco. And so that's what got me into it, brother. So in 2000, I was flying to Nicaragua back and forth already for over 10 years. But in 2014, I went out there, I hanged out for a few months, and I said, you know what, we're going to build this company. And so I hooked up with a good friend of mine over there in Nicaragua. Now he lives here. He's my neighbor now. His name is Eduardo Payan. And he kind of, he was like his parents, they were like my godparents in Esteli, because they're from Esteli. And so that's how Esteli became my second home. And then from there, the rest is history. You know, I said, I don't want to get in the cigar industry and not know anything about it. So I started working in the fields. I actually got my shoes dirty, and I was in the mud, and I taking out the leaves, and I was there for hours from 6 a.m. to like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. And I was learning that. And then from there, I went to the pre-industria where we age the tobacco, where we ferment the tobacco. Then I worked there for a while, and I got used to the smell, because when you're not around the industry and you're new and you go visit a place like that, you'll probably be there for a minute and walk out because the ammonia is just too strong.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to live through that and work in that environment. And then I started working from 6 a.m. in 2016, from 5, 6 in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just taking the veins out of the tobacco. We call it this palillo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I started learning that. So I had to go through the process before I actually got really in the industry. And I learned that. Then I started working the factory side. And I was fortunate enough to work with good people in Nicaragua from Esteli, people from Jalapa, and they taught me how to make cigars. They taught me how to blend cigar, which is really important. The cigar you're smoking, I blended it myself.
So, well, that was leading right into my next question. I talk about this all the time, and so for anybody that's listening to this, listen to me say this again for the umpteenth time. And so I love to cook. I have since for a long time. And so I even did a culinary program, went to culinary school because I love it so much. And I always say, look, I didn't go because I wanted to be a professional chef. I went to culinary school so that I could make sure I never had a bad meal.
Yeah.
And then so kind of what you're talking about there, when you start, you really go back to like the essence of the ingredients when cooking and everything else. And so for me, I understand kind of how I would approach wanting to put together a meal, and it's an experience the same way that like a cigar is, right? So for me, I always find it incredibly fascinating and interesting because each cigar is going to hit a palate differently, the same way that obviously food and or other drinks would at the same time. So I'm really curious about how you construct a cigar and how you go about that. And so we were just talking about how you blended this yourself. What was the approach? So you said, okay, I want to go for this type of palate, or is it the tobacco that inspires you, or you're saying, hey, look, I want to get something that's along these notes that hits this aspect of it, and then understanding which tobaccos are going to make that
right.
up? How is that approach for you? Is it kind of a mix between all of them? Or?
It's a good mix. But before I jump to that, I just want to say something real quick.
Sure.
Do you remember just a few minutes ago when Chris, when he first met me, how I started when I had nothing? I was just a little guy in Esteli.
Yeah.
Chris actually drove to Esteli to hang out with me for a day. And at that time, I was building a little factory in Esteli. I actually rented a little kindergarten, which is, it used to be a kindergarten in Esteli, and I converted it into a little cigar factory.
Oh, really?
You know? Yes, yeah, I actually did. And he's seen it all. And he says, Art, one day you're going to grow. And so that's what happened. So that's how I started blending. But to answer your question now, when I created this cigar, I wanted to create a cigar that comes from the whole region of Nicaragua. And so then I started comparing tobacco from Ometepe. I started testing tobacco in Ometepe. I started smoking a lot of tobacco from Ometepe. The different grades, you know, in tobacco you have 4 grades, A, B, C, and D. I started comparing. Then I jumped to Esteli and tried the tobacco. Then I jumped to Condega. And then Esteli and Condega it's kind of almost like the same tobacco, kind of. And so I said, all right, I need something sweet. So then I jumped to Jalapa.
Interesting.
So then I put it all together. And for about 1.5 years, we blend. And we blend. And we blend till finally, bullshit aside, excuse my French, January 1st, 2019, I got the blend that I really wanted to release. And then we started production.
That's great. So, I mean, that's, you know, when you say labor of love, I mean, that's actually exactly what it is, right? You're spending, like you said, a year and a half putting this together, tasting. So I'm really curious. So what are the different notes that you pick up, or the different flavors, or et cetera? So you mentioned the sweetness of Jalapa. So what are you getting between those different regions in terms of notes or things like that that you're getting out of those different tobaccos as of each region? So, you know, you talked about going from one to the next, to Esteli and to Jalapa. Are there...
I wanted to create a cigar that is not too harsh and it will not leave your palate all messed up. I wanted to create a cigar that has sweetness, that has a little citrus in there, that has a lot of cream.
Yeah, I'm getting.
I wanted to taste some coffee notes, some cocoa notes, right? I wanted to taste some chocolate notes, some chocolate notes in there somewhere. And so when I created the Habano Robusto, I was just amazed the way it flew with it. Like right now, what do you feel? We're smoking the same cigar.
Yeah,
what do you feel in that cigar?
No, I definitely the creaminess I'm getting. And that's why I said it's hitting my palate, right? There's a lot of that. And so that for me is kind of the overwhelming thing. When it comes to cigars, I often say this a lot. My palate is not as sophisticated as all of you guys who are the blenders that are out there to pick things up, which is one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated by it, because I could never go in. I mean, I could probably, you know, if I blended 1 million cigars myself, I might get one that might taste good, to be honest with you, because I have no idea what I'm doing. But for me, like, I like to smoke them, and I generally, you know, will be able to pick up notes of things. But for me, the overwhelming sensation I get from this one is that creaminess that you just talked about. When you said that, I was like, yes, exactly. That's what I'm getting overall from this.
Right. So one of the good things about this cigar, when I created all my cigar, this is the Habano Robusto. This is the cigar of the year by Cigar Journal. It was number 12 cigar of the year, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is another Robusto. Then I created the same blend as the Habano Robusto. I made it into a torpedo. Because I'm a big fan of torpedoes. Yeah. And I'm also a big fan of box press, but not full square. So I made it a semi-box press.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it's an actually amazing cigar. And so when I created this cigar, I wanted to create a cigar that I could smoke in the morning, because I like to get up around 5, 6, 7. And what I do is I come out in the patio, I smoke a cigar, I read a book. I clean my mind.
It's a great morning ritual.
Exactly. And so before I used to smoke, a lot of these cigars, I was smoking a lot of 5x50s, and I will finish them quick. And I'm like, I still want some more smoke, you know? But I didn't want to go and start another cigar, right? Yeah. So when I created a cigar, I made it a little bigger, so that way I could have enough to enjoy my palate and then just move on my day. Yeah. And so that's why I made it into a 5.5 by 52. The second cigar I created was, I said, well, if I'm gonna make a Robusto, I gotta have a combat. I gotta do something that I really like. So I'm a big torpedo fan. A lot of people don't like torpedoes. And actually, when we first released a torpedo, they were not my best sellers. But then as people started smoking them, they started changing. And now it's one of my best sellers as well. But when I started, I said, I got to create something. So I created a torpedo. And I said, well, wait a minute. If I'm going to do the Habano, I got to do my Maduro. So what I did was I created my Maduro. And so the Maduro also comes with the 4 regions of Nicaragua, right? But it's a little different.
Yeah.
The blend's totally different. And that blend, what's going to give you is going to give you a lot of chocolate, a lot of cocoa, a lot of coffee notes. It's going to give you a lot of cream, right? When you do the retro hell, it's going to give you that spice from Ometep. It's delicious. So if you're going to eat a steak, if you're going to eat a nice dinner, have the Maduro. This is going to be the perfect complement.
Yeah. I was just talking with Josh earlier when we were talking about I had dinner last night. And for me, this is kind of the way that it always goes. But whenever I have like a spicy meal, I always will crave a cigar afterwards.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, we had some really good, spicy Korean food last night. And so I was really craving a cigar. And I was outside in a downpour, and I stayed out there as long as I possibly could because I wanted to keep smoking the cigar. But unfortunately, the rain didn't comply. But I totally get that. And I've talked about this before, and it was a few years ago, but I had never really smoked a cigar with the meal. It was always post-meal. It was always drinking something with it. And so if anybody has never had a cigar throughout the course of while they're eating, I highly recommend that because it's a totally different experience and will completely sort of change the like how you think about the cigars and kind of what you do with it. And it does. It completely changes.
When you come to Nicaragua, when all this is over, and you come to that's going to be part of the Nicaragua lifestyle. You're going to be eating, smoking, and drinking at the same time. You're going to be eating fabulous steaks in Esteli with a cigar in your hand. That's how we go down over there.
Say that's living the dream right there. I mean, that's what it's all about. So let's wrap that up by talking about the number 12 of the year. Talk about that, and because that was a pretty big milestone for you.
But let me ask you a question. I'm really interested to know. When you walked up to our booth last year, by the way, I got to give credit to the people who made the booth.
Yeah.
His name is the owner, the guy who owns the company. His name is George Patton. Man, that guy made it happen for us. So I'm very grateful for the beautiful job they did in our booth. But when you walked up to our booth, you got me by surprise, bro. Let me tell you. I just want to share something with you because a lot of people think that I'm bullshit or whatever. I don't know why. But I'm like the downest person to earth in the world you ever meet. And if you really get to know me, you'll find out I have like the sweetest heart, bro. So I don't know if you remember, but when you walked up to our booth with our award, did you notice that I walked away and I went behind my booth? I literally started crying, brother.
You know what? It's interesting company because the year before we gave it to La Aurora and Carl Malone because that was the new, right? They were brand new. He did the same thing. He had to walk him back because he got emotional.
I got very emotional.
And you came out and you gave me a hug the same way that he did too.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after that, I said, I gotta man up. I gotta make this happen, right? But why
you
did
guys
you
were
get picked to be the best booth, the small booth of the year? I mean, how did that happen? Tell us how the process worked.
Yeah, so we've got a committee, right? We have a whole trade show committee, and so what we do is that we take those first few days and we go around, and what we do is we look at the totality of all the booths and the show floor, the experience of what they're doing. So the design is a component of it, the utility is a component of it, but also kind of what it's adding to the show floor, what experiences are you providing during the show, and some of these other things that are going on there. So it's a lot of it's sort of that totality, right? And so we look at it as it relates to the entire show, the entire event, the retailers themselves. So we're watching as we're going throughout the entire days of the trade show. Right. We're kind of watching how people are interacting. We're watching how people are going. So there's a lot of components that are involved with that.
Okay.
So we saw it, and we're like, we're looking at those, and there's a lot that are really around your size, right? And so we looked at a lot, and we were kind of going back and forth, and really, honestly, a lot of it was just sort of watching. It kind of came down to the interactions within your booth, and just some of the comments that kind of some of the people had made about coming in, the interactions they had with you. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we want our retailers to have good experiences with the manufacturer when they're there, right? And so, kind of at the end of the day, is that retailers have not good experience. The last thing we want, none of the cigar makers were doing this, to be honest with you. But I don't know if you have ever noticed. Sort of those that will kind of come in and they would buy booths at the last minute, essentially, and they would sell like healthcare products or cell phone services or headphones and things like that. These people were like hardcore salesmen. They're out there trying to grab people in, and that's just a bad experience. We wanted to get rid of that completely. But that's one of the reasons why we want to look and make sure that retailers are having good experiences and good interactions with the manufacturers that are there. And a lot of the booths that are your size are generally speaking kind of the newer companies too. So we wanted to make sure that, we kind of paid attention to those companies that were putting in effort and doing things like, and yours was a nice booth. And you were a newer company, right? It was probably your second or third as an actual exhibitor, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And so, we also recognized the investment that you were putting into bringing your brand to the PCA. So all of those factors were considered into that award.
It was a great investment we did, throughout the last 2 weeks prior to the show, I was going through a lot of tough times. I had the loss of family members. I lost a couple of family members in Mexico, and I was really hurt. Then I was having some legal issues. They sent me a threatening letter. If I was to go to the show, they were going to do something threatening. And I was going through all that stuff in my mind, right? And I said, you know what? We're going to work hard. We're going to put everything to the side, and we're just going to go kick some ass. And so when I was actually going to not go to the show, I was actually going to exit everything and say, you know what, forget it. But then I had a conversation with my father, and I had a conversation with the people I love. And they said, you know what, you got to do it. You got to go after it. This is your dream. This is your passion. You got to fight for what you want. Go and be the best about it. So then I put together my little team. They were all friends of mine, by the way. None of these guys work for me. They're just friends of mine. And I said, you know what? We're a small boutique company, but we got to start somewhere. And so when George Patton helped us with the booth and we put everything together, it came out to be just the way it was. It was perfect, right? So I'm very grateful to all the people who supported us and to help us. And we're very grateful for you guys to acknowledge our hard work, because nobody has ever acknowledged the hard work that I've been doing. A lot of people think when you make cigars, it's easy and blah, 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 but they don't know the true work behind what we do.
Yeah, to your point, it was a year and a half of trying to, of getting to that point. I mean, that's the passion that it does take, right? And I've heard from so many other cigar makers that are out there that like, this is not an easy thing to jump into, right? And if you want to make money, go do something else, because this is really all about the passion for that product, and it's a passion. Absolutely. Quite frankly, that's not really matched in a lot of other industries that I've been involved in, that I've seen, and that's it's actually one of the things that's so remarkable to me about the industry. Is just that aspect of it. But it was a lot of fun. You guys could tell we're a close group there when we came by. It was a lot of fun when we kind of did that. It was
and then what was cool about it is that we had some cool humidors there as well. Like they were saying that not a lot of people have humidors anymore, like those big electronic humidors. We had electronic humidors out there.
Yeah.
Cooling our cigars.
Yeah.
So we were like, we were prepared. We had our little coffee machine there for us, and it was a fun experience, and I would love to do it again. And that's why I'm a big supporter of PCA now, before IPCPR.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but my first convention was in New Orleans.
Yeah, we were talking about this. Yeah, where they lost your cigars.
Where they lost my cigars. And so I remember we drove from LA. We drove all the way to New Orleans, brother. It was an experience just to get there. And we didn't want to fly there because we wanted to carry our stuff. So I said, we ordered furniture, and we were having our cigars shipped to the hotel. So when we get there, the furniture never arrived. And our only backup was called Costco. So we drove to Costco in New Orleans, and we bought some coffee tables, and we bought a coffee machine, and as an emergency, and the cigars never got there. So I tell my friend, I said, what are we going to do, bro? He said, well, all we can do is just give away flyers and put our banners up, the ones we had with us, and just promote the company.
Yeah.
And so we were doing that. So right next to us, it was the because I was sharing a booth with the Carreras, Esteban Carreras, and right next to us, it was the Padron booth. So Mr. Orlando Padron Sr., rest in peace. He drove his little he was driving his little car.
Yeah.
He drove his little car to our booth and he says, "Mijo, where's the cigars? I want to try one of your cigars." And I said, "Mr. Orlando, I'm so sorry. I don't have any cigars here." And I told him the story. He started laughing. He was like, "Wait." So he drove back to his booth and he came back with cigars from Padron. And at that time, he gave me, that's when they first released the Damaso cigar. You know the Damaso?
Yep.
That's when it first got released in 2015. And all we had was Damaso cigars. We were smoking them right there. So we were promoting also Padron at the same time.
That's
But
awesome.
we were having a blast, brother. We were having a blast. And that was my first experience with IPCPR, 2015. And then from there, it was just history. And we built. And finally, in 2019, we were ready to do this.
Awesome.
We made it happen.
Awesome. So let's go back. We're running up on our hour here, so we want to make sure we get this number 12 Cigar of the Year Cigar Journal. Talk about that, but then also let's let all of our retailers know how they can get your products. They're good products. Like I said, you're starting to expand into some places overseas as well. So if retailers also want to be able to find these cigars and bring them in, also let them know how they can do that. So about the cigar, and then also retailers being able to get products.
What was great about IPCPR and PCA was that you get to meet a lot of people from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know who you're going to meet there. And so on the last day of the show, I was already tired. It was about 1:30 in the morning. We were at the hotel at the bar, and I was sitting down by myself smoking a cigar. Then all of a sudden, a gentleman came, and he said, "That smells good. What are you smoking?" And I said, "I'm smoking some cigar. I think it's called Antigua Esteli." I didn't even tell him who I was or anything about me, right? So he's like,
"Way to play it cool."
I said, "Actually, this is my last one, but you know what? I'll give it to you." So I pull out the Maduro box press, semi box press Toro. I had it in one of my shirts like this, and I just handed it over to him. "See, enjoy." And he started smoking, and all of a sudden I started hearing him saying, "Oh my God, this is good." oh man! But he had an accent because he was German, from Germany.
Oh, okay.
And then our broker came to meet me, and he seen him next to me. He said, "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" And they started saying hi to each other. And he tells him, "Hey, my friend, who makes this cigar? Because I want to distribute this cigar." "You don't know who makes it?" "No." He says, "Well, he's sitting right next to you." He pointed at me. I was like, "Oh, you man, you should have told me, and we could have a conversation about this." So that's where I met my distributor.
Very cool.
He's a big distributor in Germany.
Awesome.
Warman Cigars, and that's how everything got started, and then we've been sending cigars ever since. And now we're in over 144 stores in Germany. Now we're in Congo, we're in Japan. We send out shipment along, go to Malaysia, and it's going to be in Malaysia and Singapore now. We're in Romania now, in Transylvania, with Mr. Dracula over there. He's making our cigars, right? And to me, it's just an experience. I'm first of all, I'm grateful to God for giving us the opportunity, and I'm grateful to all the people who, some way, somehow, are involved with us. So at that time, I know Cigar Journal since 2015, because I met them at the actual show in New Orleans. Actually, their booth was like right next to us, and they known about us for a while, and so at the show in 2019, they came and asked me for cigars, and I gave it to them. And Mr. Reinhardt calls me and says, "Art, you're a lucky man." I said, "What you mean?" I said, "Wait, I got a surprise for you." And now all of a sudden, I find out that my cigar made it to the top 12.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, out of all these cigars they tried, because the way they do it over there in Europe, it's like something beautiful. It's just an amazing process to rate cigars, and I'm just lucky that our cigar made it to the top 12 of Cigar Journal's top 25, and so that put us in a good position in Europe.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome. Congratulations.
So that's how that happened.
So I'm going to go on a limb here. So this is I was asking a little bit about inquiries can go info at Antigua Esteli if there's anybody interested in finding it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you're related to Alma Martinez.
Alma Martinez.
Yes.
She's one of our ambassadors, and
Awesome.
she loves how we do things, the cigars, everything we do. So I'm very grateful to her and her family for always helping us out and cheering up for us and promoting our brand.
Awesome. Yeah. So if anybody's interested, reach out. You can find Antigua Esteli on their website, antiguaesteli.com, and all over social, Facebook. Art, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great conversation.
Thank
Learn
you,
more
Scott.
about you, the cigars. Thank you so much for sending them. They are the one I just spoke today. Like I said, hit my palate. It was delicious. And thank you again for bringing the NicaFund to the forefront. Very important cause. So anybody, please support that if you can, and give back. Thank you so much for bringing that on too, because I think that's incredibly important. And again, it just underscores so much about how this community, the cigar community, is so philanthropically minded. It astonishes me that more people don't sing the praises about how much the cigar industry actually gives back. But thank you for bringing that up, and thank you so much for joining this afternoon. It's been a great conversation. I can't wait to be able to enjoy it, steaking a cigar with you live and in person.
Oh man, thank you, brother. And real quick, I just want to call out all cigar makers, all cigar factories, all the American cigar companies. I want to call out my friends like Skip Martin, Roma Craft. I want to call out my guys from all over the industry. Help out. Nicaragua right now needs you.
Yeah.
Even if you could donate it $100, $500, whatever, it ain't nothing to you guys. So I want to call them out and come help NicaFund. And let's donate money for Esteli. Let's donate money for Nagarote or Tránsito. And let's just make it happen. It's not about recognition. It's not about trying to make us look good. It's not about that right now. Right now it's about the people. It's about the poor families, the poor kids in Esteli and Nicaragua completely. It's about them right now. They need us. And just like we needed help from our government here in the United States, just how they helped us with PPP loans and a bunch of crap here, they don't have anybody out there.
Yeah. This is a really great way for us to pay that forward. It's a good point.
And if we could donate just $35 and up, it's a big blessing for them. So I want to call them out, help us out. In regards to us, with the new things right now, real quick, we have a new website coming out. It should be out in the next few days. We've been having some difficulties with that, but finally we're getting it done, and website's pretty much complete. We're just going to relaunch it. Also, we're going to be going to the restructuring the company with us. We're going to restructure the whole company, everything, and it's going to be for the better.
A couple of big initiatives there, huh?
Yes.
Well, best of luck. Yeah, websites never really go according to plan, right? It's always one of those things to where, we'll give ourselves 6 months, even though we only think we're going to need 4, and it ends up taking 10 months, right?
We learn as we go, because I knew how to make a cigar and I knew how to make it good, but nobody told me how to run the actual company. I had to learn as I go. I made a lot of mistakes. I pissed off a lot of people. Didn't tell you, because I didn't do things the correct way. Yeah. But you know what? I'm an innovator, and I believe in always having second chances, and I believe that we could always do the correct thing.
Awesome.
In the name of God. So
awesome.
We're starting, brother. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll look forward to seeing you sometime in the very near future.
God bless you, brother.
Thanks, everybody else. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Take care, Art. Best to you and your family. Take care.
Bye-bye.